I'll have to, light up my torch, taking my time to make my way into the cave with the torch in one hand and sword in another, keeping a wary eye out as I move further into the mouth of the cave. As you enter the cave, the torch gives you about 20 feet or so of visibility, and as you enter, you see nothing of interest. You hear nothing but the occasional drip and some rain starting up from outside. Not wanting to go back out into the rain, I keep making my way inside, deeper until I come across any kind of change, either direction or surroundings, keeping the torch away from the wetness as best as I can. About 100 feet or so into the cave, you start to see a soft, orangey glow. Getting close to it, you can see it's coming out of a very foggy and opaque window attached to a large, scratched-up metal door. I'll get closer to the door, keeping my torch out of the way as best as I can, and listen at it, keeping low from the window. The door is just too thick for you to listen through, but one thing you do notice is that it's exceptionally cold, despite it having no signs and a very warm glow coming through the window. I'll check the door, and if it's locked, I'm going to use my thieves' tools to unlock it. Otherwise, cracking it open a little as I try to glimpse inside, torch set aside for the moment. The door is unlocked, but it's heavy as all hell. It takes a bit of strength, but you manage to get a decent-sized crack, enough to see the interior. You see a long hallway, about 20 or 25 feet long, with stone walls, lit torches placed every 5 feet or so. At the end of the hall, you see a fork, 3 similar metal doors, although they look much less damaged. I'll put out and store my torch, sword in one hand and hand crossbow in my offhand, and slip in, carefully making my way down the hall and to the fork, keeping a very wary eye around for anything that might stand out or differentiate things. As you walk in, you feel the temperature drop significantly, almost to the point of being able to see breath. This confuses your body, because you see fire, but you're still freezing cold. Your coat gives you enough protection from it, so you trudged onto the fork. Each door is almost identical, even to the point of a small dent just under the handle. I huff lightly at both the cold and the identical doors, glancing between them, trying to check for any notable difference. But, if unable to do so, moving to the middle of the 3 doors, and working to try to open it. The middle door is unlocked, just like the first one, and presents you with an almost identical looking hallway, though this time it's a bit dimmer, and a little bit warmer, but not by much. I grumble slightly and go to try and check the other doors as well. These doors give you something different. Each has a smaller hallway, maybe about 10 or so feet. The one on the left has a square room at the end of it, filled with armor racks, discarded weapons, and suits of armor, and 2 chests. The one on the right is more of a rounded room, with an unlit fireplace in the center, and what looks like bedrolls lining the floor. I move to check the first room with the chests, making a careful check of it before moving into the chests and investigating them as well, knowing the general quality or condition of the weapons and armor, or at least if they seem to have been in use recently. The chests are locked with what looks like fairly simple-looking locks, and the general conditions of the weapons and the arms are not so good. They're rusty and dusty, clearly haven't been touched or moved in a long time. I take out my thieves' tools and unlock the chests, trying to move as carefully as I can and chill. The chests open easy enough. Between the 2 you get 56 gold, 12 silver, and a healing potion. As you loot, you can hear the soft sounds of metal on metal in the room. I quickly look around, bring my sword up and ready. You see the armor slowly start to reassemble of itself as a large metal door slams shut. Each piece looks like it's being barely held on by a flimsy hinge, but it slowly starts to lumber over to you. Naturally, I grumble to myself, trying to keep myself mobile, scouting around the heavy armor and striking out at the hinges connecting it together where I can. You manage to hit one on its right elbow, sending its arm falling to the ground. It then bends over and picks up a great sword, starting to lumber back over at you. I try a similar tactic, although this time going for one of its legs, being wary of the hefty greatsword it's bringing to bear. You attack just at the knee and whiff just too short as you try to stay out of its range. It lifts up the greatsword and attempts to slash at you, but you manage to duck out of the way just in the nick of time. This time I move in and commit to the action, hoping to take out one of its legs and sending it stumbling too much to attack back before I can come off the worst of it. You successfully take out one leg, but like a tree in the wind, it doesn't fall, just merely bends slightly. It looks down at you and it knows it can't move very far now, so it just lifts up its greatsword again and attempts to plunge it down into your head. But unlike the last time you anticipated, you dodge it before it can even bring it down. With this mobility hampered, I go in and attack its other arm, ready to take my time and be careful now that I feel the advantage, ready to take it apart piece by piece until it's no longer a danger to me. Barely get another successful strike in, though just barely. Its other arm and sword fall to the ground, and resorts to the last possible thing it can do, headbutting, which it gets a successful hit with, sending you back a few feet with some stars in your vision. I curse somewhat barely at getting cocky, catching myself and glaring at it as I go to take the last leg after my vision clears and I feel myself stable. You swing and get the clearest cut yet, sending it down to the floor where it sits as two little nubs, now only a head and a body. I huff and finish disassembling it by blade, taking its head off. The head rolls and the rest of the armor falls limp. The door slowly creaks open behind you. I grumble to myself, nudging the arm a bit just to be sure, before going to collect the spoils that I'd been able to loot when the armor had broken. The armor was certainly down now. You collect your riches and find nothing else of interest around the room. I move off and over to the other room, being considerably more careful now, and on my guard. Sword in hand as I start by checking the bedrolls. Each bedroll was empty, and there wasn't anything interesting in this room aside from a rune etched into the fire pit. I take a careful look at the room, examining it and trying to see if there's anything I knew of it. You knew nothing about this rune aside from the fact that it's here. It's etched in pretty lackadaisically, like someone just did it out of boredom. I examine it closely and try to memorize it. I touch it carefully, backing up quickly after. As you touch it, your hand feels warmer. A lot warmer. Taking it to a much more comfortable temperature. The room seems like nothing interesting aside from that. I sigh as I shake my head and move off to head down the corridor that I first found. The next corridor was a little warmer and a little darker. Unlike the last hall, however, there were only 2 doors. I grumble a little bit, checking both the doors for any differences again, but if there are none, resigning myself to investigating the left side first. Like before, there were no differences. When you go to investigate the left door, you see an office of some kind. Books lining the floor, and everything seeming like a general mess. I groan a bit, stepping in and going to carefully take my time checking around. Not bothering to read any of the books, but at least looking for anything of note, aside from books and paper among the mess. You just see a mess. None of the shelves have anything of note. None of the papers read anything interesting. But you do find 2 things in the desk drawer. A key and a small amulet. I check the amulet before picking it up, seeing if there's anything that stands out about it and might give it away. You see the same rune as before, etched into the back of an otherwise pristine amulet. The gem was the deepest shade of purple, and it was perfectly complemented by beautiful, deep gold. I take both it and the key, checking to see if I feel warmer just from picking up the amulet first. You feel so much better. Where the room before felt like a Euford winter, now feels like a summer on the Astilian south. The key looks rather basic and has nothing really of note. I slip on the amulet and go to check and open the other doorway. Sure enough, the doorway was locked. Using the key, you hear and it opens up much easier than any other door in the place. This room was much different. It was absolutely huge. The ceiling was 50 feet tall and had a domed top. The room was also 35 feet in length and had a very large chair right in the middle of the room. This was clearly at one point a dining hall, but it was changed heavily. The tables moved to make way for a large, throne-like seat. I slowly enter, staying as quiet as stealthily possible. As you walk in, the door slams shut behind you yet again, this time followed by a soft chuckle. When you turn back to the chair, you see a man, very pale, in deep red robes, petting what looks like some kind of stone beast. My, what do we have here? he asks. I look between the two and draw my crossbow, aiming it right at his head and firing. He tilts his head to the left and the arrow whizzes past. Fine. I see how you want this to go. He snaps his fingers, the animal roaring and leaping out at you. I groan and take a swing at it with my sword, trying to chip off anything I can. You manage to hit its left wing, severing it with a very stone-sounding crunch as it hits the floor. It then attempts to bite your leg, just barely missing as you yank your leg away. I want to run past it and stab the man in the chair next. As you run past the pet, it claws at you, hitting your back and doing a nice chunk of damage. I groan and turn around, taking an arrow and trying to stab it inside. You try but just barely miss, giving it the opportunity to bite you again. But before it can, you accidentally flip over it, landing right on your ass. I get up and try to sever off its other wing. You land a solid hit, its last wing falling to the floor with the same crunch as before. It whimpers and tries to attack you again, clearly very hurt. Go to stab it again, this time right in its back. As you do so, it dodges out of the way and bites your arm, doing some massive damage to it. I scream and try to stab its eye again. You manage to grit through the pain and stab it right in its left eye, sending it whimpering back to its master. I suppose you were looking for this, he says, picking up a beautiful golden hammer. Everything about it pristine. Take it. It's yours for eternity now, he says as a dark cloud starts to swirl around them, almost like a tornado of darkness, and once it clears, the two are gone. Try to walk back through the door and leave. You open the door and walk back through the hallway to the other door. You open that door and walk back through that hallway to the other door, which reveals an identical hallway that you know wasn't there before. I'll walk down that as well, seeing how far it goes. You walk, and walk, and walk, and it never, ever ends. Soon the walk gets to you, and you have to take a quick breather. Try the door to the bedroll room again. You walk in, and this time there are decaying bodies all around. Some in bags, some just around the place. In total, you see about maybe 5. I step in closely and try to investigate. As you walk in and close to one of the bodies, it reaches out and grabs your leg, all the others slowly starting to rise as well. I take out my sword again and stab right down to the zombie's head. As you do so, its brains go everywhere, making even the other creatures give a disgusted look. I turn and load one of my crossbows again and fire at the closest one. It hits it right in the neck, but it just shrugs it off and lumbers closer to you. It just gets in range of you and attempts to bite. It stumbles just too far and misses you just by a hair. Try to slice at that one and take a few steps away. You hit it in the back of the neck, and that plus the arrow causes its head to sever and fall right into the fire pits. All 3 stumble over to you, 2 of them staying more back while one goes in to claw you, getting you right in your side. I groan some more and look at the room for anything useful. You see the room from before, glowing that beautiful deep purple sunlight. That's about all. I rush over to it and run my hand over it. Nothing happens to you. The amulet starts to vibrate a little bit. All 3 stumble over to you again, all 3 taking swings and bites, but only one lands on your back. I groan yet again and try touching the amulet to it. As you do, everything fades away. All the warm light gone, the bodies and the undead gone, though your wounds remain. I peek my head out of the door and down the hallway. It's empty, and this time, the coldness has an excuse, as all the torches remain unlit. I walk out the main door and see if I can leave. Sure enough, you can. You exit right back into the cold and dark cave as you hear the rain fall outside. I walk out and make my way back to the tavern and give the old man his hammer. You walk out, the rain hitting your skin and wounds and enveloping you in an odd sense of warmth. And that's how we're going to leave it.